and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. I'm so happy you could be with us today. We have another wonderful program for you. If you're listening to us on the iHeartRadio app, WNN 1470, or maybe in South Florida local radio, you know you can always live stream it on your home computer or your smartphone at the website caregiversolutions.info. And we are live from Boca Raton, Florida. So this is a program for caregivers, for family non-paid caregivers, and for other people that want to learn more about what caregiving entails and have questions about how does it work and what can we do. And there's so much to talk about because unfortunately caregiving is a growing segment in our population, because dementia is growing and it is a crisis, and it's going to continue to get worse as the years go on for many, many reasons. So on this program, we talk about everything related to caregiving, related to dementia like Alzheimer's disease and other related dementias, including vascular dementia, dementia related to Parkinson's disease, lots of different questions and answers, but the answers are provided by experts in the field, and they come on and share their knowledge and their experience with caregivers. So the hope is that a caregiver can be educated and be prepared so that their caregiving journey could be just a little bit better. So this also is a great way to get some resources, and we're going to be giving away a book about halfway through the program at around 5:30 or 6:30. That's the other thing I wanted to tell everybody listening, that we do have a new time. Our time now is 6 to 7 p.m. We've changed it, and I hope that you're caught up with us for the new year with our new time. So catch us 6 to 7 p.m. every Tuesday Eastern Standard Time. So the program does have resources for you and a book, a 36-hour day book. It was written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace, and it's a wonderful resource. We'll be giving that away about halfway through the program, so stay tuned for that number to call to get yours. But today, I want to introduce my special guests. They are from Senior Bridge, and with me today, I have Debbie Barfield and I have Ina Trueheart. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I'm so glad that you're here today. This is exciting because I know of you and personally know you for many, many, many years. And I know both of you are very passionate with what you do. You've been in the field of healthcare and caregiving for many, many years. And so you definitely qualify to be experts on this program to talk today about your company, Senior Bridge. Now, Debbie, you are a geriatric care manager and an RN, and Ina, you're in the sales part of this,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And you are out there educating everybody about the company and about what the company can do and why they can do it better than other people can do it, right? That's your job.
That is my job every day.
So I'm going to start off with you
Okay.
and tell everybody, what is Senior Bridge?
Okay, so Senior Bridge is a few things. Basically, we are a national company and we do two main things. We provide private duty care in homes and we also provide geriatric care management. So those are the two main things that we do. And what makes us different and, in my opinion, of course, better than other companies is we really are able to look at the clinical aspect, which is part of the reason Debbie's here today, and start every case with a baseline so that we can follow this person and make sure that they're getting what they need and make those suggestions to the families going forward that this would be helpful. So every day I'm out there talking about that. We're able to also deal with some of the more clinically complex type cases where there's multiple problems going on. Other places might not be able to do that. So that makes us a little bit different as well. Also, just we have a clinical each week, and one of the things that I really love about it is when there's a client that's a potential issue, everybody comes together and really talks about it and tries to solve the problem. And I saw that firsthand with one of my clients last week, and I was so impressed. I was so happy to be with this company, but to see everybody try to give different ideas, different thoughts as to what we could do to help this person and make this a better situation for them. I love that.
Like a big team effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very collaborative.
And Senior Bridge, I understand, is celebrating a special anniversary this year.
We are celebrating our 20th anniversary. And each month we'll have different things going on. I have no idea what's coming for February, but I'm sure I will hear soon. But every month we will do something to celebrate, and I'm sure I'll let people know as I'm out on the road.
Wonderful. Well,
Yes.
congratulations
Thank
with
you.
that. I want to address you, Debbie. You've been in the field for how many years now doing this kind of work?
24.
24 years.
Yes.
So long time. I know both of you are very passionate about what you do, and you are a senior care manager, aka geriatric care manager, but you have a designation also after your name, and it's CMC. What does that stand for?
It stands for Certified Manager of Care, and that's actually through the national organization that a lot of the people that work for Senior Bridge belong to. Currently, the name has been changed from the National Association of Professional Care Managers to the Aging Life Care Association, and it's a designation that we take. So in order to take the test, you have to meet a certain criteria. You have to be in the field for so many years. You have to have people sign off on your experience, and then it's about a 4 to 5 hour test. It's a certification that you receive that you have to have 45 hours of continuing education every 3 years. So it's just kind of sets you apart from, the bar a little bit higher.
So not just anybody can call themselves a CMC.
That's correct.
Is a CMC the same thing as a geriatric care manager? Because the geriatric care manager rolls off my tongue, because that's what
Correct.
all the years that I've been in the business, that's what we call a person who does that job.
Right.
But is it the same thing?
No, it's not the same thing. You can actually be a geriatric care manager and not have the certification. So the certification just goes along with, setting the bar a little bit higher.
Okay. All right. So thank you for explaining that. So we want to make sure that we know the differences, and congratulations to you being the CMC, because again, it's all about experience and education, and then the heart to help people. So Senior Bridge has been around here in the country, right? Because you said, I know it was a national company, and I did a little bit of homework, and I found out that you have a lot of offices here in Florida. How many do you have?
Currently, we have 19 offices throughout the state of Florida. We go from Miami up past Jacksonville, and we're then very heavy on the West Coast also.
And you have a lot of other offices throughout the United States, close to about 40 maybe.
Correct.
So when I first heard of Senior Bridge out of Boca Raton office, that was close to 20 years ago. So obviously it was shortly after the company got started. And why do you think, either one of you can jump in on this, why do you think now there are so many offices? You have 19 in Florida and 40 across the United States. Why has it grown so much?
because the field of care management and the population has grown. I mean, our target market is really pretty much anyone from 65 to my oldest client was 107. So I think because life expectancy has increased, our offices have increased because of the numbers of people that we serve.
Okay, so that segues into the people that you serve. You just gave me basically a chronological age, right? Because you're talking about seniors mostly. Mm-hmm. But give me an example of a typical person that would come or need a care manager. What's a typical scenario?
A typical scenario is when a geographically distant relative, usually a son, daughter, arrive onto the scene, go into the mother, father's home, aunt's, uncle's home, notice that mail has been piling up. Maybe there seems to be food that's not so fresh in the refrigerator. Just different things have been occurring. Maybe they haven't been answering their telephone. They just have some sort of notice that something's not right. So they might make a trip to Florida. And when they arrive, they're in a situation where they don't know where to turn to. And that's kind of where a care manager can come in and sit down and speak with them and tell them, what from the evaluation, what are the resources that are available, what are the things that they can look for. Really, actually, one of the best places for us to start as a care manager is if there happens to be some sort of triggering event that somebody ends up in the hospital.
Okay, and we're going to talk about those triggering events and much more when we come back. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but stay with us because this is going to be really good stuff. So we'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and my special guest today is they're from Senior Bridge, and Senior Bridge is a company that's national but also located locally here in Florida with 19 offices. And Ina Trueheart and Debbie Barfield are here talking about what Senior Bridge does and what a geriatric care manager does that can help caregivers and families through the aging process. And right before the break, Debbie, you were telling me about triggers, because we were talking about how does someone know, how does a family know, how does a spouse know, how does an individual know that they might need the help of a care manager? And so you mentioned about triggers. Let's talk about triggers. What are triggers?
So triggers are, they might get an alarming phone call. Maybe they don't get a phone call. Maybe they're getting notices in the mail that some bills aren't being paid. Maybe, they when they make a trip to Florida, they fly in and they see that food isn't as fresh as it should be. Maybe there's needs to be, mail has been stacked up. Maybe there's some dents in the car that somebody didn't see before, and now there's more dents in the car. Anyway, those type of triggering things. And some of the main triggering things happen to be issues that are, medically complex that actually somebody might end up in the hospital type setting.
So you mentioned too that adult children may be coming down for a visit, visiting their elderly parents in Florida and seeing these things, right?
Right.
The point of it is that that adult child only has so much time
Only has so much time.
that they can
and-
be in Florida to visit because they probably have a job up north. They probably have a family to get back to, and they can't spend as much time with their parent or grandparent as needed. So it sounds like a care manager, which is what you are and what your company represents, becomes like the eyes and ears.
Exactly. One of the ways that we describe it, we're the eyes and the ears for the distant family member, or the eyes and the ears for the family member that's consumed with their own life, and maybe hiring a professional helps them along the way.
So if you're going to be the eyes and ears, how do you start with a family? Because hopefully, I mean, this is why we're educating everyone to know about a care manager, because I don't know if, everybody realizes there's help like this, right? I mean, if you've never had to use it before, you've never been exposed to it before, you are that adult child coming down and seeing this and like, well, what do I do? How would a person like that find out that there's help in the form of a care manager? How would they even know? I mean, who would tell them about that?
Well, we actually work a lot with financial planners. We work with trust officers. We work with local assisted living facilities, skilled nursing facilities. So the case managers or the social workers that are in the facilities often know about us. The discharge planners in the hospitals know about us because we're, like Ina's goes to a lot of the hospitals, and we do lunch and learns like we were talking about earlier. So there are a lot of resources, but if they start to research and they start to look for solutions, we as Senior Bridge care managers, a lot of us belong to a national association, and the national association is called the Aging Life Care Association. So the acronym ALCA.org. They could go on to that website, and that website will say how to contact a care manager. They put in their zip code or the zip code they're looking for a care manager in, and they can pull up all of the care managers that are locally in that area. It'll give you a range of mileage. It starts, I don't think it starts like 10 and goes up to 100. But, they can zero in on Boca Raton, they could zero in on Jupiter, and they can actually look for people that are members of the Aging Life Care Association that way. So that's actually turned out to be a really good resource for people. And there's different ideas and things different articles that they can read on it.
So, Ina, you are in the education division, so to speak, of Senior Bridge, and it's your job to make sure that all of these people that Debbie just mentioned, attorneys, social workers, other doctors, other people, know about you. Because if they know about you and what you do and the services you can provide, hopefully then they would have direct contact with the family in need and then be able to refer those services.
Correct.
So when you go and make these visits to educate, what do you say to them? How do you approach a different discipline, right? That may be an elder law attorney or a doctor. How do you get your foot in the door, so to speak, to let them know about the services? Because if it's maybe a new practice or someone new in town, of course they wouldn't know about the offerings. What do you say?
Well, what's nice is because I've been in this industry for so long is I know many of the elder attorneys, for example. And as far as getting in front of them, one of the things that they really want to see is that the client isn't always calling them. So that's where I can go in and I can sit down with them and say, listen, this is where we can work together so that your client has the legal information, has all of their advance directives done, but they're not calling you for every little thing. Our care managers can work with you, can work with the financial advisors, work with the adult children, and make it a much easier process and keep the client from being on the phone all the time. That's one thing. I can also, having worked in assisted livings for a long time, That's how I learned about geriatric care management. And it was something that became really important as time went on to say to families, you need help. This is my suggestion. So I go to assisted livings and independent livings now and remind all of the folks who do what I used to do, this is an option for these families. They might not want to move into an assisted living. They might want to stay at home. Senior Bridge can help with that. Senior Bridge can help you keep your family from falling apart because the care manager is going to take care of all these things, the communication. Sometimes moms and daughters, not so much. Debbie can step in and really help that situation and make sure that mom is getting her medicine. Mom is still being treated like the adult that she is, still maintain as much independence as possible. And basically, I tailor my message to each person. Doctors don't necessarily want to know per se, but their nurse practitioners do want to know. Mm-hmm. And they're all about keeping those people safe in whatever environment they're in and keeping them out of the hospital. So again, I go to all different places and a lot of the same topics, but it just kind of is niched based on who I'm speaking with.
So it sounds like you're recruiting, in a way, people to be part of a team. And
Absolutely.
to have a team to help, because we all know that caregiving can't be done by one person 24/7 for very long before, like you said, the person just keels over because of the stress of caregiving, or the family situation falls apart, which is very common with caregiving. So having different team members with your doctor, with your elder law attorney, with a geriatric care manager, and everybody on board is creating this team approach so that you have, I think in the very beginning you talked about your own team, where you work, that everybody has a say in what's the best case scenario for outcomes and what every team member can actually provide for the support of that particular situation.
Absolutely. And again, having worked in buildings for so long, caregivers were always my top priority because they love their loved one. So who do they take care of? They take care of their loved one and they don't take care of themselves.
Right.
And kind of like when somebody gets on an airplane and they give you the whole spiel, put your oxygen on yourself before you can help your loved one. And caregivers, they're so busy doing and loving that person, they're not taking care of themselves. And if, God forbid, something happens to that caregiver, what are they going to do? Mm-hmm. It is a team approach, and it's so important. And so many people don't know or understand this whole team concept, but it's they need to know.
Well, I think a good point that you made is, for instance, the elder law attorney. People love their attorneys because they're paying for great advice, but attorneys aren't always the best at giving you other kinds of advice when it comes to care, right? Or which hospital is the best to go to, or which medicine is, important and not so important, right? And so by not calling that attorney all the time because they have a care manager, I think two things are happening. I think they're getting better advice, more knowledgeable advice, but I think you're probably saving money too, right? Because an attorney is going to charge a lot more money per minute than to do what they do, and also they're not the experts at that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And even just since you brought up the money portion, an adult child who's up in New York and mom keeps falling and being admitted to the hospital, they're going to be paying a fortune in fees flying back and forth to come visit mom. A care manager could avoid that by being the advocate and keeping in touch with the daughter or son or whoever it is, and making it easier and technically less expensive because they're not flying back and forth and having to deal with that.
Well, there you go.
The other thing is that they could stay here for 2 weeks and they might not know the resources that you've acquired over your years of working in the field, or that I've acquired of working in the field. So, we kind of become like a one-stop shopping person to go to get the resources that are available for that particular person in their particular financial arena and in their particular environment.
Well, I think it's important to talk about the money part because, Ina, you and I talk to caregivers all the time, and they'll say, oh, I can do it myself. I don't need anybody. And they try to be Superwoman or Superman. And then there's the other flip of the coin where they go, oh, that's too expensive. And in reality, like with the example you just gave, you can actually save people money.
Correct.
In the long run, right? With knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, right?
Exactly.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have some special stories that we're going to share with you, real life stories. You won't want to miss this, so we'll be right back.
Arden Court's Memory Care Community has the expertise and experience to simplify and enhance your loved one's life and to protect you finding the peace of mind you deserve. Come, see the difference in a facility like Arden Courts that is 100% dedicated to Alzheimer's and dementia care can have on your loved one. Call us at 888-478-2410 or visit our website, arden-courts.com.
Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and at this time, I'd like to thank our national sponsor for this program, Arden Courts Memory Care Community. Arden Courts is a leader when it comes to memory care, and they have communities all over the United States and 10 right here in Florida. And because Arden Courts cares for the caregiver as much as they care for the person living at their memory care assisted living, they want to give you, the caregiver, a free resource. This is the 36-hour day book. It's a wonderful resource, and it's written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace, and it is totally free just for the asking. I would highly recommend that you call and get this book because it's a great resource. If you want to look something up really quick, you don't have to read it from beginning to end. You have different topics and different chapters. And if you don't have this book or you know somebody that should have this book, just give Arden Courts a call on their toll-free number, which is 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about this offer on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll be glad to get your name and address and make sure that a copy of this book is mailed right to you. So again, call 888-478-2410 and ask for your free copy of the 36-hour day book. Highly recommend that you do that as soon as possible. So my guests today are from Senior Bridge. Senior Bridge is a company, national company with actually 19 offices in Florida. And my guests today are from Senior Bridge, Ina Trueheart and Debbie Barfield. And we're talking about all things related to care managers and what a care manager is and what a care manager can do for a family when it comes to growing older and needing services. And so right before the break, we were talking about triggers and why somebody might need help and how a doctor or an elder law attorney might say, you know, maybe it's the right time to call a care manager, right? I'd like for you, because you've been doing this for a long time in the field, and I know we all have our stories that bring to mind when we're talking to a caregiver. Something has happened in the past, and it's like, wow, let me tell you what happened in this situation because it mimics so many others. What are some of the sad stories that you have come across where you as a care manager you've been able to help this family? Can you share a few of those?
Well, I'm going to go from an experience of a case that we recently had where we were brought in by the attorney. And the attorney, it was a new case for the attorney, And it was the financial planner had recommended that we go and do an evaluation. So we go into this apartment. Now, I'm going to go from one extreme, so somebody that had resources, to a story about somebody that didn't have resources. So we go into to his unit. He lived on the ocean. He was in a king-size bedroom with a small hospital bed. He couldn't see the ocean from his window. He hadn't been out of bed in about 2.5 years.
What?
The caregivers that he had were independent caregivers that weren't skilled on a Hoyer lift. So he hadn't been out of bed. They were doing a really good job of turning him frequently and that type of thing. Anyway, we went in, we did this whole evaluation, and we did it within a day. We took his king-size bed apart. We stored it downstairs. We called up a person that we knew that is a durable medical equipment company. We had these metal ramps put in. So the ramp went from his bedroom to the sliding glass door. We got a Hoyer lift in. We trained the caregivers how to do the Hoyer lift. We actually replaced the caregivers with caregivers through Senior Bridge so that they were actually skilled in how to do the Hoyer lift. Anyway, we had a wheelchair delivered. We put him in the wheelchair. We took him out on the patio, and he was so cute. He was from Italy. The first thing he did, he looked up and he went, "Boat?" And he saw a boat. It was like the first time he had seen a boat in a really long time. So that's kind of what a care manager did in the initial assessment, seeing what could be done and could be done differently.
So right there, it's obvious you improved this gentleman's quality of life, because if he's stuck in a bed for 2.5 years and can't look out the window, and all of a sudden you make that possible, how great is that?
So we coordinated with a Medicare home health care agency. We got him physical therapy. It was very difficult for him to transport out to go to a physician. We got a nurse practitioner that was able to come to his apartment and would bill Medicare for the services. So he was much better taken care of, and he really enjoyed his life. So recently, I know that you work a lot with people with Alzheimer's, so obviously you know what the triggering factors are in that. I received a phone call. Once again, it was a referral from an attorney. A woman didn't live close to her mother. She lived 2 counties to the north of where her mother lived. Anyway, she started telling me the scenario about how her mother, went from, like, in about a 3 to 4 week period. She had been driving. She couldn't remember her address. She had gotten lost. She couldn't remember the daughter's phone number, all of this stuff. And she says it happened so fast. So my first immediate response was, that's not the typical course of Alzheimer's. Something else is going on with your mom. You need to have your mom evaluated. She got an appointment. She drove the 2 counties down to take her mom to the appointment, found her mom on the floor. Took her mom out, 911. Her mom was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Wow.
Anyway, she had very limited resources. We met with her, we talked to her, we told her what we could help her do, and we helped to coordinate moving her from the county she was in to 2 counties north so that we could get her a bed available in a skilled facility and that the daughter could go and visit her. And the daughter is now able to go and visit her. There's not going to be any kind of, heroic measures done, but so she's back functioning as not having to drive and be able to see her on a regular basis. So a very, very, very limited amount of resources was used to coordinate all of that. And it was a really good outcome for her, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
And again, improving quality of life, right? You have this lady by herself with health problems, and now she's close to her daughter. She's been taken care of 24/7. And even without resources, you all know how to tap in to resources that are available, right? That you have the ability to bring on board people that can help, no matter if someone has lots of money or they have virtually no money, and you know how to handle that. And I think that's important too for people to know, because sometimes, like we said before, oh, that's too expensive. I can't afford that service. But sometimes you can't not afford the service.
I'm so glad you made that statement, because I was just telling Ina that earlier that, I go out and talk to people all the time, and somebody said, we can't afford that. And I said, you can't afford not to have a care manager sometimes.
And I wasn't even in the room.
I know.
No, you weren't, but we were just having that conversation, and it's so true.
But it is. And caregivers sometimes, they don't have all the answers, and they don't sometimes want to feel like they have to rely on other people to help them because they want to do it themselves. But virtually it's impossible for caregivers to do it, again, without help. And I think one of the long-standing messages of this show is for caregivers to be prepared and be educated so that when the time comes, if the time comes for a certain scenario, they're going to know what to do. And I always say be prepared. Even if you don't need to execute a plan, have a plan. And I think that's where you all come in with plans. And I think that's important for all caregivers, no matter what, is to have a plan. So let me ask you this. That being said, do you come on board when there's really not much of a problem, in sort of like a retainer with an elder law attorney? I want you in my corner. There's not a lot you have to do right now, but in the event that things change, then I want you to be there. Does that happen?
We do that a lot. We will go out and we will do an initial assessment so that we're getting familiar about, where the person lives, what kind of scenario they have. Do they live on the second floor? We go in and do an assessment with looking at, do they need any durable medical equipment? Do they need grab bars? All that type of thing. What kind of medications? Who's the pharmacy? Who's the physician? And we take all of that and we input it into the computer, and it's saved into the database. So if something happens 3 months down the road, 4 months down the road, the daughter, the son, whoever can contact us, and we can pull that information up, and we don't have to start over from, it's always better to be proactive.
We have that baseline. And most people don't necessarily want to be proactive. They want to wait. No, I'm fine. That's part of my job, is to say, plan. If you don't plan to fail. And we're here to help you not fail.
As we know, a lot of caregivers wait for the crisis to happen.
Correct.
And then nothing good really, comes out of a crisis, because you're in a crisis mode and it's harder to make decisions. It's harder to get the resources when you need them, and it's better to plan. So how do you convince people, Ina, that they need to plan? I mean, what do you say to them if you have a caregiver that's kind of stubborn or kind of macho and, no, I don't need that? How can you turn them around? What kind of things can you say? How do you reach not only their mind but their heart to understand that how important this is?
A lot of times I just keep asking them questions, the right questions, so that they're going to end up telling me what they know should happen. They might not do it, but it's a matter of asking those questions. What happens if? What happens because? If you're not okay, who's going to take care of your wife? Where are your kids? They're 3,000 miles away. Okay, so they're 3,000 miles away and something happened to you. What happens next? Sometimes that works wonders. Many times it doesn't. It all depends. Part of it is they don't want to lose that sense of independence, and I never want to take that from them. I'm there to help people. I'm there to educate them as far as different alternatives. And that's the best that I can do, and then just follow up and check in. I met with somebody a few weeks back, and we're fine. He's not fine. He can't move. He had a problem with his foot. And his wife has Alzheimer's, and there's a son that's in his 50s that has special needs as well. But everything's fine. So I spent some time. I asked a lot of questions. And then we had discussed daycare as an option. And I called back about 2 weeks later, which is when I promised him I would. And I was thrilled to hear he put his wife in daycare 3 days a week. Yay.
And what did that do for the whole family, not just for him, right? But what did it do for the family?
Oh, my God. Obviously for him, it gave him a break. For her, it gave her some necessary socialization and activities to do. And even for the son, he helps his mother all the time. It just gave him a chance to be. So, next step is he needs some help in the house. And that will come in due time. And it's not for me to push, but I was so relieved to hear he placed his wife in daycare. That was such a great option.
So sometimes it's baby steps.
It is. A lot of times it's baby steps. how many times have you received a phone call that says, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Smith. I'm looking to move into an assisted living facility"? You don't really always get the Mrs. Smiths calling you, do you?
No.
We don't usually get people saying, "Hi, I'm Mr. Jones, and I'd like to have a caregiver." So it's usually some, like you said, triggering factor that causes the phone call.
And those can be very scary and very stressful. So it's important, again, even if it's baby steps, and sometimes that's how people get to where they're going.
And the caregiver called not because he wanted to, because his daughter really pushed it. And he didn't want her to call. So he did make the call, and he did allow me to come out and sit and talk with him. But the daughter really had to push it. And a lot of times, the daughter and the parent have different goals in mind, but he smartly listened to her and at least kept an open mind and did something that was necessary for all three of the people in that house.
Right.
And we'll go from there. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's hard, especially getting all family members on board or on the same page.
Well,
I'm sure
that's
you
very
have
difficult.
stories about
Story.
that too.
It's very difficult, and I have to tell you, it's even more difficult when it's second marriages, and there's different sets of children and different relatives along the way.
I bet that gets messy.
It does, from time to time.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll hear some more about what a care manager can do for you and your family. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. I'm with Debbie Barfield and Ina Trueheart from Senior Bridge. Senior Bridge offers many services for caregivers and their families, and they are here to share about what you need to know about what a care manager does. And we have the experts right here in the studio. You've been in the field for over 20 years. You've been in the field for close to that. And it is amazing how much we talk about this all the time on the program, but people still don't know. And so I think, it's important to go over it again and reiterate and talk about the stress and talk about what caregivers need to know so that they don't end up in a crisis situation and things just get worse. So all the things that a care manager does, we've been talking about, but I guess the elephant in the studio is what does it cost and how can a person pay for it? Because sometimes, obviously, not everyone has unlimited finances and they're on a budget. So can you talk a little bit about that, Debbie?
Yes. So really, geriatric care management is either a private pay fee-for-service business. Mm-hmm. One other aspect, though, is a lot of times long-term care policies, which I have to tell you that Ina and I are seeing more and more long-term care policies all the time. Mm-hmm. The long-term care policy can have a coordination of care component in it, which would actually be the source for paying for the care management services.
Is
So-
that something that's always been in a long-term care policy, or do you think it's something that they've added? Because there are a lot of long-term care companies from years ago that don't even write policies
Right.
anymore. So have you noticed it's something that is in there that people don't know about, or is it something that you think that they're adding? What do you think?
I think it's something that people don't know about. There is a care coordination component in most policies, whether it's an internal telephonic from their own company or whether they're allowing you to go outside privately, is based on the individual policy.
And I talking about long-term care, that's a really good thing to bring up, because people think, well, I have this long-term care, it's going to take care of me, right? And they don't even know what their policy entails. And we've had people on the program, to explain long-term care policies. And some people think, well, I'll just use it for everything, but not knowing that, oh, it's only for nursing home, or it's only for home health, and it doesn't cover a lot of things. But on the flip side, this is something very good to know, that it could cover what you're talking about, the coordination to pay for a geriatric care manager.
Correct. And also, we actually have a long-term care expert in our office, and we help process the claim. We help the person get on the claim. We will even look at the elimination period, and we will help to clock down the elimination days. For instance, we recently had a woman, kind of like what Ina was talking about. She had been going to daycare for 2.5 years. It actually, in her policy, daycare was a triggering mechanism. We got all of the notes from the daycare facility after 2.5 years, and her 90-day elimination period was waived because we took the notes from the daycare and sent it to the long-term care insurance company.
Wow. So see there, I bet the family didn't even realize that they had that benefit until someone could step in and say, hey, look, this is what you have. And again, it's important to know, someone who is an expert in that can really decipher the benefits, because it can be very confusing, and the language in a long-term care policy can be overwhelming for people to figure out what they really mean, and what their benefits.
Absolutely.
One thing that I also see a lot of is that people hold on to long-term care policies like they're gold. They don't want to use them at all, and they may have a 4-year benefit, they may have a 5-year benefit. We recently had a case where, when we got involved, this woman had been just taking care of her husband, and when we walked in, his hospital bed was already in the living room. Okay, he had a 4-year policy. We started him with caregivers. Anyway, he only lived for about another 1.5 years, so she couldn't do anything with the rest of that policy. So we try to tell people that they need to actually try to put the process in place and to go on the claim, because you can then, as you're using your long-term care policy, look for Plan B.
Well, another good point, because I know caregivers don't want to start it because they're thinking, well, it's too soon, and what if I run out? And that's, a hard thing to kind of figure out, because nobody knows how a disease is going to progress. Nobody knows how fast or how slow, for instance, Alzheimer's might go, and they don't want to use it too soon. And the unfortunate thing is, as in your exact example, is that they didn't get to use the majority of it because they did wait too long. So where's the balance, and how do you judge when you start, and if you're going to be going through that 3 years? Because a lot of times now we're finding that there's no more for life, right? There's no more life benefits, and they're being
Very
cut
rare.
off about 3 years, or maybe a pool of funds. And when that pool of funds is gone, then you're done. So what happens then? And I think people, as far as caregivers, are very confused and leery of pulling the trigger to start those claims because of the fact of being afraid of running out.
Absolutely. But here's where you can put collaboration together. Most families have a financial planner. Most families, I shouldn't say most, many families have a financial planner. Many families have that elder attorney, have their advance directives. You have experts that you've already been working with. Talk with them. Talk with your banker. Sit down with your adult children and figure it out. Elder attorneys can help plan for Medicaid. There's different things that can be done. And most importantly, talk with your doctor. Where are you at? And does the doctor believe that this is the right time to start? many seniors really look to their doctors for that nod of approval. And if the doctor says
It's time.
it's time, they'll do it that way. But people do wait too long, and then they've paid a bloody fortune for a long time for these policies. And for them not to use it is just a shame.
It is a shame because they don't get all the benefits that they're entitled to.
Correct.
We encounter so many children that don't even know that their parents have a long-term care policy. So what we tell them is that when they're here on their trip and they're looking for different things to look into, to see if they make any quarterly payments, if they make yearly payments. Some of them have the benefit from a retirement plan that they were involved in. And, if and when they need to start acting on their parents' behalf, they can contact the Human Resource Department of wherever they're retired from and find out benefits that way also.
Yeah, good point. If someone's a veteran and they have maybe some benefits, can you coordinate with the Veterans Administration too with anything that they might be able to do?
Well, we do know the community liaisons, the one in West Palm, and then there's one in Martin County. We actually know what somebody would, we know what the parameters are for applying for aid and attendance. Aid and attendance that you can be used towards the cost of an in-home care or towards the cost of an assisted living facility. The person has to have served 1 day during a wartime. It's very rare that we encounter World War II veterans these days. We have very few.
More Korean War. and
Yes,
Vietnam.
definitely into the Korean War. I met somebody today who's 89 and he was in the Korean War. Anyway, you have to qualify from a financial perspective, and you also have to qualify from a medical necessity standpoint. So, once we kind of talk to the family about the parameters, then we kind of direct them to the people that work directly for the VA, the community liaisons for the VA.
Okay, so you can help coordinate all of that too. Right. So if someone's listening today and they're like, wow, I need more information, and they'd like to contact you specifically, how can they do that?
Well, they can call my cell phone anytime. Ina Trueheart at 561-523-3614.
All right, give that number again.
561-523-3614.
And you can give them all the details and get them connected.
Absolutely, I'm happy to help.
Okay, good. And real quick, support groups. I know you facilitate one. Just real quick, how important is that?
I believe that a support group is not only important for the socialization aspect, because most people, when they come to a support group, get to meet people, and it's kind of, we always have new people coming and going, but a lot of time they stay on for 3 and 4 and 5 years. But the education factor that someone acquires from going to a support group, because the facilitator of the support group brings in attorneys, brings in people that do Medicare, people that do managed care plans, people that do durable medical equipment, and the vast amount of knowledge that they acquire makes them better in the long run to deal with all of the issues.
And that, again, another great resource to get information. One of the reasons that this program actually was started for people that won't go to a support group, or they don't want to let people know they need help, and by showing up and letting everybody know there's a problem. So people can actually listen on the radio in their own car, in their home, watch it on their computer, right? Because there's information out there, no matter how you get it. If you're a caregiver, if you're a family member, you can get the information, right? So support groups are great, but if you're not a support group person, then, keep watching the show and talk to professionals and get your team together. And I think that it's important that we keep stressing this. I'm so glad that you all are here today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your expertise and your knowledge with everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been great. Maybe you'll come back again and share some more at a later date.
Sure.
Be lovely
Absolutely.
to have you. And thank you all for tuning in. And thank you for watching the Caregiver Solution Info Show every Tuesday, 6 to 7 p.m. We'll see you next time. But in the meantime, don't forget, give somebody a hug, because they need it and so do you. And don't forget, call the toll-free number to get your book, The 36-Hour Day. That number is 888-478-2410. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily